Hey, hello manager! Let's talk about lessons learned. We both know that it's a critical aspect of project management, but for some reason you don't do it regularly. Why? Well, most likely you don't see benefits of this process. That's why I'm going to share my free-level system of lessons learned that help me improve my project management process throughout all years of my career. So what's the main benefit of the lessons learned process? And it's simple, it's a continuous improvement of your project management process and project management culture inside your organization. So how does it work? You do a project, you create deliverables, and after each deliverable you collect lessons learned based on what worked on this deliverable, what didn't work well for this deliverable, and so on. Likewise, you collect lessons learned for the whole project at the end. Ideally, you capture all these lessons learned in the company's wiki or some other storage where all project managers can see them. And you do it for the benefits of the future projects. So whenever a new project manager starts a project in your organization, he takes all these lessons learned, gets through them, and tries to avoid the same mistakes, identify the same risk for his or her project. And for sure, some aspects of a project were a complete failure, so this new project manager will try to do something else. And he will capture his lessons learned, and maybe he will come up with a new approach that works and is efficient for these kinds of projects. And as always, there is a big catch here. So there is an assumption that your organization has a standardized project management approach, so lessons learned collected from one project will be applicable for the next project in the line. This way you'll be comparing apples to apples, you'll be comparing performance of the similar projects with the same approach to project management. But in the real world, it's really true. And in just a minute we'll talk about how to overcome this problem in my free-level system. And still, I want to set correct expectations as to your ability to make changes on the organizational level. I have a true story where I captured one and the same lesson learned throughout several years, and no one did a thing about it, and it was on the level of the company's policies. And I couldn't do anything about it until I got some authority in this company, and I want to stress it out. Not experience, not the knowledge in project management, but authority to influence other stakeholders to make this change. That's why I developed the system where you can focus your efforts on things that you control, that you can change on your project, and you don't need any approvals or authority to make these changes. Alright, without further ado, let's dive deep into these free-level systems of lessons learned. And it starts with the bi-weekly retrospectives. And yes, you do it just like the Scrum prescribes. But even if you don't have iterations, you can still run this meeting every 2 or 3 weeks, or after you finished a deliverable. And here's the big idea here. You don't try to solve all the possible problems of the company on this level. You only try to focus on collaboration, on communication, on the requirements for the current work, and maybe some processes and workflows that the team uses on a daily basis. At this level, you try to improve tactical performance of your team, and you try to reduce the amount of small things that demotivate your team members on a daily basis. And believe me, small things matter. So how do you do it in practice? You plan a meeting, you gather your whole team in one place, in one Zoom call, and you want to cover just 3 things. First you ask them what went well, then you ask them what went wrong, and last but not least you ask them what they want to continue doing no matter what. Then you're allowed to speak up to all team members on all these 3 topics in regards to the last 2 or 3 weeks of work that they performed. Next, you will collect all this feedback from all team members and you will group it by the sources of problems or the best practices. And the next idea here is that you need to select only 3 things that you will act upon to improve this process. You will either fix 3 problems or you will make 3 best practices that work well to stick for the next period of time. The most important thing here for you as a project manager is that you need to ensure that you will act upon these three things and you will do everything possible to make them happen, that they will either stick or you will solve the problem. Otherwise, your team members will see that there is no benefit in collecting lessons learned, that they lead to nothing. You want to avoid it. You want to show that you care about lessons learned. You care about improving your project and their work. And by the way, you can use an online tool to run these retrospective meetings so people can simultaneously provide this feedback and you can vote in them and even develop an action plan for the selected items. And it saves a lot of meeting time because you will simply vote and then discuss the action plan for the selected items. Before we move on to the next level, if you enjoyed this video so far, show it to me. Please click the like button below and we'll carry on. Let's do it now. Thank you. So the next level is the deliverables level, and you heard me saying this a lot on this channel. A project manager should always work towards creating tangible pieces of the project. So why it's important? Well, because you have tasks assigned to this deliverable, you have estimates of time and cost, you have risks assigned to this deliverable, you have resources, you communicated on this deliverable, and so on. So you have numbers, you have something to measure against. So as the saying goes, you can't manage what you can't measure. And as you understand, the agenda for this meeting is a bit different because you'll be comparing the planned values with the actual values of the team. So at this level, it's important to focus on the problems with the estimation of time and costs, with the tracking of the project scope and the risks that you assign. So in general, the process of creating and delivering a piece of a project. Another critical aspect of this level of the lessons learned is that it's a checkpoint for your whole project management plan. Because if you deviated on the level of a deliverable, there's a big chance that you will deviate on all other deliverables the same way. And here's a truth from real world. It's much easier to correct the project plan, the estimates early on during the project rather than at the end. At the end, clients spend a lot of money, effort and time, and they have some expectations, so they are reluctant to make these changes. So the idea is simple. You try to analyze the accuracy of your estimates and your planning in general during the creation of the first few deliverables, and based on that, you correct the whole project plan early on. As you understand, for this meeting to be efficient, you need to collect all this project information in advance and present it to your team. Then you want to ask some questions, why they think we missed the deadlines, why our estimates were not accurate, and so on. Alright, I think you got the point. Now we are moving to the project level, to the lessons learned that should be acted upon on the company's level in terms of processes, policies, and tools that we use. So the idea here is simple. At the end of the project, you set up a meeting to review, first of all the lessons learned that you collected in the process, then to collect feedback on the project in general from, again, the whole team, and come up with some things that was systematic, that repeated time and time again, or something that didn't work because the policy or the company or a stakeholder asked to do it this way. But here's the problem. I don't believe in capturing the lessons learned and storing them in some archive just for the sake of storing. I believe that you need to take action on all these findings, but the problem here is that you don't have authority to do that. So you need to collect these lessons learned and make them presentable for your leadership or PMO officers if you have them, so that they can see and act upon them. Still, I want you to be ready that they'll be reluctant to make any changes to the company's processes because they just work. On the other hand, you need to understand that it's hard to improve something without having a baseline. So if your company doesn't have any standardized or described processes or tools or templates, there is no need to actually improve them. And still your leadership will be reluctant to make these changes because it requires a lot of efforts and they can't see this improvement because they don't have a baseline, because processes in most companies are not standardized, they are not described. So if you are willing to step on this journey to improving project management culture in your organization, the very first step that you need to take is to actually document some processes. And the good thing that you don't need to capture the whole project management approach of the company. You can start with the selected processes and describe them. Then you can collect lessons learned and show the weak spots or places for improvement for these processes, and you will work from there. So the first step in this process for you should be getting support from your boss or your leadership on this endeavor. You should go and say that I understand that we can't improve what we can't measure, and I'm willing to take this initiative and capture our best practices so we can compare the performance on these processes or workflows for different projects. After that, you will be able to show that you followed the process to the letter as they see it, as they established it, but it didn't work in some places and you have some ideas of how to improve it. Let's correct this process a bit and amend the best practice and try it out again. For sure, you want to measure your performance and you want to collect feedback from your team members so that it's not just your opinion on these improvements. Alright, here you have it, my 3-level system of lessons learned. And it may seem like a lot of work, a lot of meetings, but in essence, think about it. It's just one additional meeting for you once every 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, I want to know your thoughts on this process. If you find it valuable, give it a thumbs up. If you don't think it can work in your environment, give it a thumbs down. Any feedback will work. Thank you in advance. Alright, as I see it, you are on a journey to becoming a great project manager. That's why I suggest that you watch one of these videos next. One of them is the 5 areas of project management that all project managers should focus on today. And the next one is about how to be a good project manager. So click one of these videos and I'll talk to you there. See you later. Bye bye.